Southern African products on the U.S. shelf and what it really costs. All right, let's go. All right, where have we been? Where we are going. Session one, in 4 lines, AGOA opens the door. Just to give you insight of AGOA, that's the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Duty-free U.S. access and counter season advantage, or some of the advantages of sourcing out of Southern Africa. The path is 6 steps. Assesses, regulate, certified, partner, ship, sell. 3 agents, clear your goods, FDA, USDA, CBP. Every product needs a GS1 barcode and a GTIN to reach a shelf. So there's going to be a lot of acronyms in here. Don't get flustered with the acronyms. Some of these acronyms you can look up. Some of them are kind of understood by view. So don't get flustered as we go through this alphabet soup of acronyms. Today, the 3 gatekeepers up close are the FDA, USDA, and CBP, and these are all U.S. government regulatory sectors. FSVP, this is the Foreign Supply Verification Program, what your U.S. buyer must verify about you. Number 3, standards and costs, which certification and the cheapest, honest way in. Number 4, traceability and 2D labeling with our guests from GS1. And then number 5, how MATANGA walks with you. Why ship from Southern Africa? In the U.S., there's a $613 million door you are not walking through yet. 613 million U.S. chili imports a year, and the market is growing. To the U.S., $0. Zimbabwe exports actually $3.4 million of chili to everyone except America. Screen around here. The crop is not the problem. The paperwork and the trust a U.S. buyer needs is the only thing in the way. Today is how you get that trust. Everything that follows is the key to this door. 3 agencies stand between you and the U.S. shelves. FDA, what is in the food? Safety, is made cleanly, and is it what the label says? USDA, the plant and its origin. Pest-free origin, pest-free country of origin, and organic only if you claim it. CBP, how it crosses the border, the customer process, files, duties, and inspections. One shipment must satisfy all 3, and they hand off to each other. Your FDA prior notice rides along with the CBP entry. USDA certification travels with the good. Miss one, the whole shipment stops. FDA, 3 things you must do before you ship. Number 1, register your facility. Free at access FDA government. FURLS, have that definition for you here. FURLS is the FDA Unified Registration and Listing System. Renew every 2 years. No registration. No registration refused at the border. File prior notice every shipment. Before arrival, 2 hours air, 4 land, 8 ocean. No confirmation numbers, detained or destroyed. Meet FSMA, a written food safety plan. HACCP, that's a hazard analysis critical control point evaluation. produce safety rules, and FSVP, which is next. Your U.S. buyer has to vouch for you.
Do you mind going back to the previous slide?
Previous slide. Yes, sir.
Okay, so just so I understand and the people in the room understand, you're saying that in order for my shipment to come, this is the interplay of three different organizations in the United States, right? The FDA, the USDA, and the Customs and Border Patrol, CBP.
Yes, sir.
And before it even leaves Zimbabwe, South Africa, Kenya, or whatever, before it arrives, we need to make sure that they've registered their facility for free at the FURLS website.
Yes, that's
Okay.
the FDA Unified Registration and Listing Systems.
Okay, and then that prior notice, which is like basically an FYI before your shipment actually arrives at the border or at the airport or whatever, that needs to be filed at least 2, 4, or 8 hours, depending how it's arriving.
Correct. That's what the number 2 is basically stating.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Your U.S. buyer has to vouch for you. Make it easy. U.S. law puts the duty on the importer, not you. They must verify your food is as safe as U.S. food, and they need 4 things from you. Hazard analysis. What could go wrong with your product, identified and written down. Proof of your control. Evidence that you've managed those hazards in practice day to day. Verification. An audit or record that confirms the control actually works. Corrective action plan. What you do and document when something goes wrong. A recognized certification is your buyer's shortcut. It is the strongest evidence that you can hand them, and it cuts how often they must audit you. It does not remove FSVP. It turns your buyer's job from months into minutes. MATANGA builds the evidence file that does it. USDA clears the plant. CBP clears the border. USDA, the plant. Photosanitary certification from your NPPO applies 3 to 4 weeks ahead. Profess pest free. So the NPPO, that's the National Plant Protection Organization. Just to give you guys an idea of that organization. Country of origin label. Product of country, no vague regional labeling. USDA organics, only if claimed organic, otherwise it is misbranding. APHIS permit. Off the screen. APIS is the Animal and Protection Inspection permit for certain plants and materials apply early. So for certain plants, certain materials, plant materials, you would have to apply for this license earlier in order to use those materials. CBP, the border. ISP filing 24 hours before loading, which is a $5,000 per miss. So anytime that a filing for your CBP filing is missed, that is a $5,000 fine. Entry files within 15 days, duty by HTS codes, and then the AGOA equals 0%. So you're duty free as long as you're filing within those 15 days. And then the FDA exam decisions. Most complaints, shipments, auto release. Which certification and the cheapest honest way in? Which one? GFSI certification, Global Food Safety Initiative certification. SQF, SQF is a certification, usually this incentive, an auditing body, FSSC, and BRCGS. All of these are food safety auditing bodies. These are the audits the previous slide was speaking of. These audit systems are kind of I guess you would call it a passport into the USDA and FDA's eyes. Are not legal required, but USDA buyers want them. A GFSI cert is your FSVP passport. SQF is the most accessible for the first mile producer and the one the U.S. grocers ask for the most. Start HACCP. HACCP, once again, a hazard analysis and critical control point program. This is about a 2005K US. Then you have SQF fundamentals or BRC. This starts around 5K to 15K. Later, the GFSI, funded by the first U.S. sales, is about 10K to 35K. This badge is cheap. Cert plus audit is only 5 to 12K. The big number is your facility, 50 to 60K. If it just needs paperwork and training, 60 to 250K. If it needs a rebuild, floor, water, cold chain, the cost is your building, not the certification. Lower it further. Pool it. An aggregator group certifies a central site, $1,500 US plus $50 per farm, not $250 each. Funded. Zim Trade Export Cluster, Collage Fits for the Market Plus, and USAID offers free training and grants.
Ty, could you go back just to the previous slide?
Previous.
I feel like this is a key slide because some of our listeners might be wondering about, okay, fine, I know I need to satisfy the FDA, I know I need to satisfy the USDA and also the CBP, and what this slide was supposed to bring home is that you can use one of these GFSI certificates, whether it's SQF, FSSC 22000 or BRCGS. It's not required, but it's something that's recognized universally by buyers on the US side.
Right.
And that certification is cheap in the grand scheme of things. And what really costs the most is the capital expenditure that you need to undertake on your end if you're a producer in Zimbabwe, Kenya, Southern Africa, and whatnot. That it's all the changes you need to make to your facility. That is what costs the most, but the certification is actually the cheap part. But those costs can be reduced if you go in as a group, if you use the aggregator model, and the one aggregator group certifies a central site, and then it's a small fee per farm that is throwing into that site.
Yes, reiterates the saying of power in numbers.
Thanks.
5 mistakes that stop shipments at the border. Refuse entry, fix registration, register today. Set a 2-year reminder. Number 2, detained or returned. Fix files, every shipment on time. Number 3, goods destroyed. Fix, call your NPPO 4 weeks out. Number 4, refuse plus rebranding. Fixed export labeling, review before printing. Allergens are the number 1 rejection. Number 5, your buyer drops you. 6, let MATANGA build your evidence package. Your product needs a name the whole world can read. Today, 1D, just an ID number. So that's what we have here, basically a 1D barcode. By 2027, a 2D origin, batch, and expiry in one scan. So this is what our current labeling system looks like. This is what the next labeling system is going into by 2027. New exporters can start 2D from day one, an advantage over incumbent who's must retool. This is GS1's world, and we bought the expert. Are we ready, Zandy?
Just before we hop over to the experts, just again to reiterate what is being shown in this slide.
Gotcha.
In order for your products to make it from one side of the Atlantic to the other side, from Zimbabwe, Kenya, Namibia, South Africa, and whatnot, it needs to be easily recognizable, and the traceability chain needs to be clear. And the clearest way of doing that is with a GTIN, Global Trade Item Number, or a barcode, classic barcode, as you would know it as. And there's two versions, and the first one is the 1D that we all know and love, and then the second one is the one that is being rolled out next year in the Sunrise 2027. So I think this ties into the US chili market that Tyrone was talking about earlier. Like, it's a $613 million market. And also Zimbabwe is a pretty big grower of chili peppers, and so is South Africa, Mozambique, and other countries in the SADC region. But Zimbabwe specifically, even though it grows, it doesn't ship any of that chili to the United States. It ships around the SADC and to other countries, but not to the United States. And that issue could be a lack of visibility, a lack of being able to qualify the sites that are running, that are growing the chili, and also being able to accurately label so that there can be a solid traceability chain from the farm to the aggregator to the border to your buyer this side in the United States. And yeah, I just would be remiss if we didn't sharpen that point. And I think our guests from GS1 is joining us. Ty, if you don't mind me taking over the share.
Yes, sir.
Slides. Hi, Lucy. Are you here? Oh, there you are.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Lucy.
Let's get you going. Here you are.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me today. Very happy to be here. I will today talk a little bit about, of course, barcodes, and more specifically how FSMA 204, that regulation, is being approached by several of our members. I think the biggest thing we do is collaboration. But before that, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. I'm Lucy Angarita. I've been at GS1 for about 5 years, and before that, I actually worked on end-to-end traceability for the Subway supply chain. We did it for North America, about 25,000 restaurants, and we focused back then, because it was, 14 years ago, there wasn't any regulation that actually pushed specific traceability like FSMA 204 is doing now, but it was more the ROI behind it, the benefit for all supply chain stakeholders. So it's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. And I think, as I share this with you, please go ahead and ask questions, because I saw it in real life. So it really does make a difference when you live it and breathe it. And before that, our legal disclosure, antitrust first. We are always under very strict antitrust laws. So we ask everybody during your questions or discussion to please refrain from discussing any competitively sensitive topics. And also, we are not representatives of the US FDA, and anything that I show you today has not been reviewed or approved by the US FDA. Go ahead. Right. So I think you've been discussing different regulations and the types of barcodes that you could use in order to have a more visible supply chain. And I think that is the key, right? We don't need technology just because of technology, but it's more about what kind of visibility do we have? How much product is at which locations? What are the expiration dates? Once we have that information, it just becomes so much simpler to manage your supply chain. I remember, of course, we all say this when COVID hit. I don't know why here in the US we ran out of toilet paper. Uh, but it was like there was more food concentrated at the restaurants that were closing down. The retail stores didn't have enough food. It was just very crazy. And since then, um, back in 2019, there was a study that about 81% of the companies surveyed, like 17,000, didn't have visibility or the right visibility. But now it's just become critical. I mean, it is a critical need, not just to meet your customer demands, to meet, of course, regulatory compliance, enhance the way you communicate with your trading partners, that interoperability, but also get the right product at the right time at the right place, where your customers need it, where your patients in healthcare need it. Next slide. So we at GS1 US, really what we do is we establish that language that anyone can use, right? Regardless of the technology or the platform, we are really offering that common language. And if we think about traveling to Europe, and having your blow dryer, the plug doesn't fit the outlet sometimes for us in the US. So we need a different adapter. Otherwise, our even if it fits, it can blow up, which is what happens with our businesses day in and day out, because errors can cause so much damage in data. And what we do is we're that adapter to make sure that everyone can connect and understand each other. Next slide. So we are known by the barcode. I mean, there's 10 billion barcodes scanned every day in the world, and we license that across the world. We have different member organizations, but that's not really the main thing we do. What we do is we bring communities together. We are neutral and not for profit. So this environment really enhances the conversation as to what are the challenges in supply chain? How can we fix them? How can we be collaborative in these challenges and make sure that all companies move forward, whether you're competitors or whether you're customer and the supply side of it, whatever we need, that is what we talk about. Next slide. So really, this is our framework. We make it possible to identify products, locations, logistics units, etc., capture information about them as they travel throughout the supply chain, and then share them in a way that is pretty much the same language. Master data, so that's the data that doesn't change. Transactional data, such as, for example, advanced ship notices, probably you're familiar with that. And physical event data, which is pretty much EPCIS. Healthcare has been very focused on that. It sounds very tricky, but it's really just a language, just like the alphabet. Electronic Product Code Information Services. And it's the way you share specific event data, like when a product is being cooled or harvested or transformed, which comes in very handy with the new food regulation. Next slide. So now we're going to talk a little bit about barcodes, and we all know the UPC. This has been a key product identifier. It's what we use when we go to the retail grocery store, when we check out to pay, right? So this powers order for fulfillment, checkout, scanning, etc. Now, this has been really useful for the past 50 years, but it really carries very limited data. And that limitation really opens the door to the two-dimensional barcodes. Next slide. So worldwide, we're hearing businesses turning to this two-dimensional barcodes in order to access better information. So as many of you probably are familiar with this, 2D barcodes can support consumer engagement, product information, regulatory certification data, and of course that supply chain aspect of it, which is the recall, traceability, food safety, etc. So one scan, and there's so much information that can go behind it, including taking your customers to a website to understand the ingredients, anything about their product. Next slide. So here are a couple of very critical differences. The 1D barcodes, this is a UPC. As we know, they typically just carry the global trade item number or that product identifier. But really, there's longer ones, longer one-dimensional barcodes called GS1 128. This is what we use here, for example, in the States for traceability. It's been used by the Produce Traceability Initiative since 2009, I believe. So it's very common. There's many products that have it, but it only allows 48 characters. And if the barcode gets scratched or something happens to it, you cannot scan it. Now, on the right side, you're seeing the two-dimensional barcodes. You're seeing this is one QR code that has a GS1 digital link, and then the other one is a GS1 data matrix. These barcodes can be scanned omnidirectionally, so you can point to it at any angle and it scans. Also, if a little bit of it's ruined, damaged, it has a scratch, you can still scan it because it has error correction. And this is a big advantage, as you can imagine, in distribution environments that have to go fast. You can't be just trying to point to a barcode and then not being able to scan. So this really helps expedite the process in, operational efficiencies, etc. Next slide. So there's two main use cases that we see companies focusing on worldwide. For example, Sunrise 2027, we've heard of it. It is an industry milestone. It's not a mandate. It's not tied to a regulation. So I'm going to explain why it matters. Next slide. So what Sunrise 2027 means is being able to modernize the retail point of sale to read and process at least that GTIN that you need to check out from a 2D barcode. It can be any type of 2D barcode, just like they do with the UPC barcode. So for 50 years, they've done the UPC barcode has done a great job. But now what we want to focus on is, yes, 2D has a lot of capabilities, and brands want to show so much information to their customer. But what we are focused on right now is, can you scan it at point of sale? Can you get a GTIN from that? That is actually tied to the price. Next. Oh, and one more thing. This is for consumer level packaging. It is not for the case level at the supply chain. So this is why we have another use case that is very big and focused more on the FSMA 204 regulation, which is the 2D in general distribution. Next. So what is the use case for this? Well, there's more information, just like in the consumer aspect of product. In the supply chain, we need more information. FSMA 204, for example, is requiring a lot more information to be sent to the next trading partner. They are not requiring labeling or any specific standard, but they are saying you need to pass it on. And this is something that's keeping a lot of companies awake at night, trying to understand, how am I going to rely on my trading partner for this to be accurate? So just adding more information, and again, having that barcode that has error correction, that can be scanned quicker, that is more that is smaller, so more data in a smaller footprint. This is creating this need for 2D in distribution. Next. So with this, we go a little bit more into the regulation. FSMA 204 is actually a subset of a bigger regulation, the Food Safety Modernization Act, which actually has been in place since 2011. But this subsection is just came out in 2021, and it really tries to form a specific framework for companies to collect data the same way, so the FDA doesn't have such a hard time trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together during a foodborne illness investigation or doing a recall, during a recall. Next. So what is this regulation? FSMA 204 is a regulation that establishes additional traceability records for a list of high-risk products. There's a very specific list. I'll get into it in a minute, but it really applies to anyone that manufactures, processes, packs, holds foods from this list. And it does apply to foreign entities if they're exporting into the US. They actually are covered by the rule. There are several exemptions, but basically we're saying that it's important that everyone understands the rule and the regulation and how it impacts them, because the FDA has said, well, there's different critical tracking events and key data elements. Critical tracking events are just activities. Am I shipping the product? Am I harvesting the product, etc.? And then the critical tracking and the key data elements are all those attributes that go with that event. So the why, the how, the when, etc. The compliance date was supposed to be January of 2023, but they have extended it until July of 2028. The reason is not because companies haven't started. It's really because people need more time. They have started. Major retailers, operators here in the US are very focused on this regulation, but they just need more time because it does take a long time to be able to establish traceability and that communication with their trading partners. This information needs to be sent to the FDA in a sortable spreadsheet within 24 hours of that first request. That is the only requirement, sortable spreadsheet. So basically companies can really, just do it in Excel. Now, if we think about the complexity of the supply chain, it's really hard. And this is why GS1 standards help. Next. So this is the food traceability list. We see all of these products are part of the rule. But what makes it even more complex is actually that any product made with these ingredients that have not undergone a kill step are also part of the rule. So let me give you an example. Peanut butter crackers. If they have peanut butter that has not gone through the oven, that cracker is part of the rule. Peanut butter cookies have been baked, so the peanut butter has gone through the kill step, so it's not part of the rule. And with this, there's so many different products that can be in scope or not. So it all depends on that kill step or other exemptions, like if it's sold to a local market. There's exemptions based on revenue for raw agricultural commodities, for farms, or for small retailers. Next. Now, this is part of there's many examples that the FDA has put together around the supply chain and who needs to collect what information. They're very specific. So they say the harvester needs to collect these specific key data elements. And we're not going to go into a lot of detail on what they are, but there's a lot of good resources we will give you at the end, including FDA resources to know, if you're an exporter, if you're somebody that's shipping to the US, this is exactly what you need to keep around your product in case there's a recall. Good news is critical tracking events, key data elements, they've always been, not always, but since like 2006, have been part of the food industry language here in the US. GS1, the Institute of Food Technologists, I mentioned Produce Traceability Initiative, all these different groups got together and defined this to have better traceability. So these terms are not new to food, and this is what the US FDA has been trying to do, get it to be, familiar to all the companies. Next. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about GS1 standards and FSMA 204. Let's go to the next slide. So when the rule came out, a lot of people felt like this. They felt, oh my goodness, 592 pages. What am I going to do with this? Where's my business fitting into all of this? This is my process. How can I know what impacts my products? So we formed a work group very early on, like in November of 2021. Today we have about more than 200 participants, more than 100 companies, main leading retailers, operators, distributors, solution providers, associations, everyone is at the table, making sure that we create tools, guidelines, so industry has a way, a path forward, because the rule says the what needs to happen, but it doesn't get into the how. So what we do with GS1 standards is outline the best practice. It's one way of doing things. It's not the only way, but it is helpful. Next. So main theme, as we started having the conversations, regardless of your technology platform, how sophisticated you are or not, using a common language is what helps. Just like the Phoenicians, I like to give this example. How was the alphabet created? Does anyone know? It was actually the Phoenicians. They couldn't transact across the Mediterranean because nobody could understand their hieroglyphics. So they came up with the alphabet in order to have a simple language that could be easily understood by everyone. And this is what GS1 standards are. Today, a lot of companies use EDI. They use global trade item numbers, GTINs, global location numbers, GLNs. They use a lot of these standards. So we wanted to leverage what existed today. Next. And these 7 specific CTEs is what the FDA is requiring. So on all these activities or critical tracking events, there's specific data that needs to be collected. If you look at the right-hand side, every bullet represents one or more key data element for that specific event or critical tracking event. Originally, we thought, oh my God, this is like 300 plus different attributes that need to be collected. But when we categorize them, next slide, please, we really understood, wait a minute, this data already lives in a lot of the systems. It's just maybe siloed, or we don't share all of it. So we categorized it into product master data, into location master data, and then that transactional and event data I mentioned at the beginning. And it was easy now to understand if we use those unique identifiers, they're not required by the rule. GTINs, global trade item numbers, GLNs, global location numbers. Even though they're not required, they can point to that other information that lives in master data systems, and it makes the communication so much easier. And then also it can be included in the barcodes. So as I mentioned, there's a big focus on including, for example, in a 2-dimensional barcode, the GTIN, the date, the lot, and then there's the manufacturing plant information. All of that can be included with just a global location number. If you include that in a 2-dimensional barcode, number one, it fits. Number two, you can point to any master data system, including your own database. We have a database called GS1 US Data Hub. You can enter all that information in there and give it to the FDA. Around the product and the location. So you get the first 2 buckets out of the way. For that transactional information, we use advanced ship notices. And I'm going to show you an example of how it works. Next slide. So for every single requirement that is a main requirement from FSMA 204, we have an applicable standard that is actually in place today. There's nothing new that we had to come up with. And I'm going to show you in real life how it works. Of course, the subway traceability system is very complex, but you can Google this. We have a case study. It's called GS1 US IPC subway traceability case study, or just put IPC subway traceability case study, and it's going to show you what we did, what I'm going to describe in a minute, and then the ROI behind it. Go ahead. So an order of salad is placed from, let's say, a distributor or an operator, and this salad is packed on cases. So the EPCIS, which is that language, can help put together how the salad was made, all the ingredients that went in. But also, when you put the salad on cases, you can put a barcode. Right now, back then we used the GS1 128 with a GTIN, a date, and a lot. Then a pallet is formed with different cases. This pallet has one identifier. It's called the Serial Shipping Container Code, or SSCC. You put that label on the pallet. That's all you need. Next slide. because the idea is for this advanced ship notice or electronic data interchange 856 to go early to wherever the product is going to arrive. That ASN has all the other information required by FSMA for the shipping event. So it's how many cases you're shipping, the GTINs, the lots, all of this information is included there. So when the recipient scans that SSCC, it can be married to that ASN and all that data comes into the system. As the pallet is broken down and individual cases are shipped to that final grocery store or restaurant, next slide, the individual case can be scanned with that GS1 128. And that GTIN and lot combination, industry has agreed and aligned that that is the best way to meet the FSMA 204 traceability lot code requirement, which is, that lot code cannot be reassigned by anyone in the supply chain unless they're repacking or transforming the product. So passing that on, GTIN plus lot, is a very critical piece of information. And now with two-dimensional barcodes, you can also add that manufacturing plant information, which is the GLN. This is not just about, regulation. I mean, we saw how customer trust, transparency, supply chain visibility opened up a new world just to even handle supply and demand planning, forecasting, etc. So many benefits. If you do this right for regulation, there's so many benefits you can get out of it. Next slide. This is two quick examples of what happened at Subway when we worked in traceability. First, we cleaned up master data. With bad master data, you cannot have good traceability. So we cleaned up master data. We asked all our trading partners to look at one central source of truth, which is called the Global Data Synchronization Network. It's a way to share product information consistently and standardized in a standardized way. That alone yielded $1.3 million in cost avoidance. And even after that, and I say 1.3 million, it was just truckload optimization and material handling, because there were errors in the data before, like 1 pound more, half a pound less, and that just exponentially creates errors throughout the supply chain. So that's all we measured, really. It's a lot more probably. But then after that, years later, using that same information, we were able to automate the way that the restaurants did ordering and inventory management. So it was using barcodes. They could scan, easily see what product it was, order it, instead of having all these manual writing down on a piece of paper process. We calculated $72 million in cost avoidance just from 15 minutes or 20 minutes that a restaurant would take doing inventory. That was the time they would save. Next slide. So really, we love to focus on this because there is ROI beyond compliance. It's not just wasted product that gets discarded or having to discard so much more product than really what needs to be, but it's that transparency, that engagement, product freshness, better stock rotation. All of this happens if we're all communicating in a common language. And with that, just some key takeaways. We like to tell companies, if you haven't started looking into this regulation, start now, but don't do it alone. There's so many companies. We have been paving the way, understanding what is best practice. So come for help. You're not alone. You have other people that have done it and are already doing it. So just make sure you're understanding where you're impacted, your process. Is it my shipping event, what I need to worry about? What is that information? And make sure you're prioritizing your most critical customers and trading partners to just focus on the ones that impact you the most, the highest criticality, highest volume. And there's my contact information. I think we want to open it up for questions, if there's any questions now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucy. Really, really insightful sharing. And yeah, we can open it up to people in the chat. You can put your question in there, or you can just come off mute, and you can ask your question. While people are thinking, I do have one or two questions that I had for you. Let me just get them ready. So almost everyone here is at the very beginning of their journeys. Many people aren't exporting yet, but there are a few who are. And some are like gearing up their production. And when I think about the FSMA 204 machinery, right, the CTEs, the key data elements, and the 24-hour sortable spreadsheet, it was built for established operators. So for a Zimbabwean smallholder growing, let's say, chili, who wants to be export ready, what's the first GS1 building block to put in place today? And what's the stuff that can honestly wait?
I think a very critical piece that you can look into that will help you, and again, it's not required by the rule, is, are you identifying your products today? Getting that global trade item number for your products is really helpful, not just for the regulation, but if you're going to export into the US, a lot of these retailers, marketplaces, Amazon, Walmart, all these people are requiring the global trade item number as part of doing business. So there's a member organization in your country. Find out what that GS1 looks like and contact them and make sure you understand the process, how many products you have. That way you can get the prefix that you need, like 10, 100, 100,000. It really depends on if you're small or not. We have different structures for that. You can even get a single GTIN, just one, and one that identifies you as a trading partner, as a company. So that's the global location number. It could be your physical location where you are, or even just your legal entity. And that way you can, understand transaction. And after that, of course, understand what the regulation is. If your product really is impacted after you pack it and send it, what information do you need to send? Who are the trading partners that you're going to be interacting with, and reach out to them, because they might have requirements already in place that you might want to know early, even before you start doing anything.
Okay, and I think this ties into what's going to be in our third webinar. We're doing a small case study of a Zimbabwean company that they had gotten some gray market barcodes, and when they were trying to export, they ran into a lot of issues, right? Because those barcodes don't belong to them, and they belong to like a dead company from like 30 years ago. And this is actually quite fascinating how big the gray market or black market barcode industry is. And yeah, I really want to signal boost what you're saying about getting a legitimate identification information for your products and for your site location, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I have a couple more I can keep going that we're just prepared for you. You covered Sunrise 2027 and two-dimensional barcodes. A lot of US incumbents are stuck retooling from 1D into 2D. And the people we have in the room, it's actually the opposite. They don't have any legacy 1D at all. Is there really that much of an advantage to standing up GTIN, GLN, and 2D from day one? Or should they go the traditional process of starting with 1D? Like, if you have the choice, can you just fully go into 2D right now?
It really depends on your trading partners. That's why you would need to talk to them. A lot of companies have that capability. All they need really is an image-based scanner, because the traditional linear scanners cannot scan a 2D. But if you're using, this is really key, if you're using for supply chain, let's say, just for like FSMA 204, a GS1 data matrix, this is a specific 2D barcode. That is very key, because the systems, the software that is used in supply chain it's compatible with the systems that exist today, because it's the same language than the linear GS1 128 barcode. So that is very key if you're going to apply it to your boxes, to your supply chain. Yes, I would say it makes a lot of sense if your trading partners can handle and scan that GS1 data matrix specifically. that you go a lot steps further if you start with a 2D barcode, because GS1 120 barcodes really have limitations, and they're, if they get scratched just a tiny bit, you can't scan them. So definitely there's plus to that, to starting with 2D if you can, but you need
Okay.
to talk to your trading partners.
Okay. Ty, you have a question?
Just a quick question. What would the equipment look like for that, and how much would the cost be for someone to kind of initiate that program?
So we don't get into cost really. There's several printer hardware providers for you to print those barcodes. Same thing, your software. You would have to look into, I think, your GS1, your local MO. We have a list of certified solution providers that we can give you, but you would have to go and ask them about pricing and all those kinds of things. But really, some people actually have printers today that print the linear barcodes that can print the 2D barcodes. It's just a matter of configuring them for that. So one thing we do say is, if you're using an older printer that doesn't print a 2D barcode, think about all the work and the maintenance you have to do to these older printers to be able to print a 2D. But if you're just getting a brand new printer, probably you already can print a 2D barcode with no problem.
Awesome.
And the scanning, the same thing. If you're going to upgrade your software, there's not a lot of linear scanners that exist anymore. They're all image based. So that's what's out there in the market.
Awesome.
And I think if someone is exporting, especially from Southern Africa into the United States, where the power of the 2D barcode is your story. That's what's going to really convince or move someone from, okay, am I buying these peppers from, I don't know, just regular brands, Walmart, Costco, whatever, or am I buying this ethically raised in the Zimbabwean sun for the last 6 months and whatever? Like, you can tell more of your story using a 2D barcode, and the customer never has to leave whatever platform they're on than if you're just using the 1D barcode and inviting people to look for you that way.
And that's the other thing. If you're thinking about that piece, the GS1 data matrix, or the GS1 QR, I'm sorry, it's a QR code with GS1 digital link. That would go on the consumer packaging. It's very important to differentiate what the supply chain use case is versus what you want to give your customers, because there's two different type of 2D barcodes that you can use, and it'll make it so much easier.
Okay. Lucy, we have one more question for you, if that's all right. And then
Sure.
If you could plant one warning sign at the start of this journey, right? What is the single most common traceability or labeling mistake that gets people's shipments rejected? What would that be, and how can we avoid that?
Don't do it on your own.
Hmm.
Ask people that have done it. Go to your local GS1 office, because if you start on your own, you're going to make all the errors that you could already avoid, right? Talking to people that have done it. So that's the one thing that people try and do, like, oh, I can just take care of this little piece, but you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you could miss out. So that's the first thing we say: collaborate. Make sure you're talking to your trading partners.
Awesome.
If there's no more questions, Lucy Angarita from GS1 US, Director, Supply Chain and Visibility. Thank you so much for visiting us here at MATANGA Research and informing our proud attendees with this powerful information. I'm sure we will be in touch whenever we come to the next season of this, or as Sunrise 2027 gets the full momentum going. But yeah, thank you so much.
It's a journey, and it's my pleasure. Reach out anything you need. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy.
All right. And I guess time to wrap it up, Ty.
Yes, it is. So, one partner for your barcode and your compliance identity. We help you get authentic GS1, GTIN, and the GLN, and we fix broken or gray market barcodes so your products are clean in the global registry. Partnership, MATANGA holds an executive level partnership with GS1 US. Compliance on your own tools. We build the SOP, standard operating procedures, audited trail, field logs, FSVP evidence files inside your existing Microsoft 365 systems or existing systems that you do have outside of Microsoft. We build, you keep. Rooted here, founders from Zimbabwe, CTO in South Africa. We know this region. The point of visibility, we make operation legible to the US buyers so we can say yes fast.
Yeah, so just on that piece, Ty, if you wouldn't mind, previous slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you saw, exporting or even moving goods in one market is already difficult, which is why a company like GS1 and their standards exist. And when you start crossing borders, it gets significantly more complicated. And yes, at Matanga, we do hold an executive level partnership with the GS1 US, which means we are a solution provider. We are definitely available to consult on any of the complex situations that you all or anybody you know might be navigating when it comes to trade, whether it's export to the United States or even export in and around the SADC region. And yeah, our goal has always been, how do we set things up once such that you don't have to change too many things as you keep going, which is why, hey, if you can get the 2D barcode or the GS1 with the data link or the data matrix, that is something that will enable you to start telling your story as loud as you can now, as everybody adopts to the new standard. And yeah, we help with the compliance side. We build it on the tools that you already have, and yeah, we try to keep you as compliant as possible. And yeah, like Tyrone said, the point is for you to be visible, and visibility comes from making sure that you are taking care of all your processes, staying certified, have the correct GTINs or identification and labels and all that good stuff, so that when it gets here, it's just really simple for someone to say yes.
Absolutely.
And I think with that, we can open it up to questions. Shylock, I know this has been a long webinar. We didn't get to hear from Seke Farm Fresh, but yeah, what's going on? What are you thinking? What's coming up for you?
Yes.
I think for me, just high-level reflection, it's quite condensed. The webinar is not as simple as we anticipated it would be. There's been a lot of technical information that's been shared, and I'm sure a lot of people are still digesting that to say, what does it really mean for me? And it means quite a lot, but I think from the presenter, it's clear that you cannot walk this journey alone. But I'm also thinking in terms of, so what can we motivate our local suppliers to supply to the US? Obviously, I think the perishables would not be easy if this is the process and the complexity. So basically the chilies, the sesames, the natural products that the ASIM is looking out for in the CASA product that we want, the CASA project that we want to do, they look like good starting points for any ambition to export into the US. So basically, it might not necessarily be our current off the farm, off the greenhouse produce, but it could be potentially looking at products that are first processed and exported. In case you hit a snag, you have got 1 or 2 days, or you've got a week to rectify your paperwork, to pay your fines, and ultimately get into your market, that sort of thing. that's sort of my high level reflections around that. But I think it's very valuable information, particularly understanding that the process is clear, because a lot of the challenges we have in value chain development is the information is never clear, the pathways are never clear. That's why one of the pain points we're trying to avoid with this partnership of MATANGA, Seke Farm Fresh, and like-minded farmers is the middleman. So the middleman thrives where there's no clear pathway in terms of how do I get to the market. And I think with the team leading in this process of just making it clear that you can move from A to B to C to D, we're talking about traceability, but we're also interested in the transparency and the straightforwardness of that pathway in order to get to the consumer. And I'm happy from what GS1 has presented. The pathway is quite clear, and anyone who is really passionate about this industry in terms of, say, I want to move from the farm to the fork, I think it's quite clear. And a lot of the time as farmers, we're trying to avoid these complexities of middlemen being changed on prices and so on. So hopefully I think that really excites people. It brings people on board in terms of wanting to try out this journey with various products. Like we said already from webinar 1, we've picked something exciting, and we starting to working towards developing that, and hopefully we can come back and share with people how that journey has gone. So yeah, those are my reflections for now, Ty and Zander.
Awesome.
Over to you.
I would say something you said, Shylock. I think process is definitely the way to go. Like if you're, and it speaks to, well, it's the way to go for 2 reasons, right? The first one is your tomatoes aren't going to make the journey from Kazungula to let's say Newark or New York or Miami or whatever, and unless you find a good way of preserving them, protecting them all along the way, plus you're competing at a very competitive market with Chile, Peru, Mexico, and these other local or closer markets that have a stronger grab on the market. But once you process, let's say, those same tomatoes and you make sun-dried tomatoes, now you're fetching a premium for those products. And that can go a very long way. And it speaks to something that I've seen a lot of happening from colonial times, right? Like they come, they get everything they can and they process it in the Western or Northern countries, which is, it takes away the opportunity for skills to be developed locally. How do we sun dry our tomatoes? How do we make different flavors? How do we employ more people in that value chain before it leaves Zimbabwe? And that is all being done in the country that is being exported to. So an invitation to process on the ground and really differentiate ourselves, yourselves, and everybody else, and ask for that higher dollar value for your peanut butter, sun-dried tomatoes, or ginger drinks and all these other things. I think that is definitely a strong, very, very, very strong pipeline.
Absolutely.
I would say. Yeah. Are there any other questions that people are sitting with? And this webinar will be available on YouTube in like 3 or 4 days, plus any other links and resources that our guests shared with us will definitely make available to you guys by email. Is there anything that people are sitting with right now? Okay, well, Tyrone, as always, thank you for hosting.
Yes.
Shylock, thank you for co-hosting and giving our guests a nice place to come in and share. And also a big shout out to the rest of the MATANGA team for helping to facilitate this webinar. And yeah, if you have any other questions, any curiosities, feel free to email us. Our email is team@matangaresearch.com, or you can reach us through our Calendly link, which is also available in the emails that you guys have received. But yeah, besides that, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.
See you
2
next
weeks.
time.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.